So I'll be talking to you, and then I'll be talking to everyone else about the virtual experience. You got anything tight today?
My hips.
Your hips? Okay, well, you know what? We're going to work on those today. Yay, you're
And
in
my
luck.
shoulder.
And your shoulders, and those too. That's actually perfect, because the last couple of weeks we've been like focusing on legs and hips. This week we're going to do, like the first half of the sequence is like shoulder, upper body, thoracic, and then the second half of the sequence is hips. So we're getting both. Here, I'll pull up the sequence so you can take a look at it. And you won't be able to see it. I'll take it down once we start going. It's a little bit of a longer one, so we'll get into it pretty quick.
Okay. Oh, good.
Okay.
Good.
Yep, lots of good stuff. So what we'll do, instead of, so that we have time for it, instead of doing the first round in intervals, we'll do it together as like the warm-up. And then that'll get us going, and then that'll most likely bring us into the fourth round. That way I can explain the progressions of things, but again, this should hit up everything, loosen you up. You ready to loosen up? Okay. So we're gonna start with shoulder circles, and we usually do like the big circle, shoulder circles, which we will do, but let's start a little bit different with the wrists here. So hands by your hips, you can start just doing little circles. No big deal. We'll go one direction. And then every time you switch directions, I do like 5 or so, start incorporating more of the arm. So now my lower bringing them forward and away. Throw them out. And now more of the elbow comes into it. Here you can rotate. That was fun to watch. Let's try again. Ready? Here. Palms face you. Rotate. Away. Yes. And then eventually it becomes fluid. But it's just here. And then the other way. Whoa.
Oh. There's a shoulder, like both sides have a funky shoulder thing that happens about here. Like that.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome. So then what'll happen is eventually you'll bring that all the way into big circles here, and then you can do more of those rotations.
Yeah.
You can do some full extension the next round. So instead of shoulder circles, which does circle your shoulders a little bit, go into your chop, coming up, looking through your thighs. Only if you're able, go down into a deep squat, otherwise you're just gonna come right back up, and then here, making sure the ribs don't flare out. Up. So if you don't go into your squat, then you would just come back here, otherwise. Leading up with your chest. So that's what we're gonna alternate with there. I'm gonna mute you because I forgot that I need to do that. Let's see if I
I was surprised you could hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Mute. Okay. So that's going to be the first progression. Shoulder circles. And then the next round will be the full extension. And the shoulder circles and blah. Okay, next up is going to be a cat-cow progression. And then we're going to take it to incline plane with some knee drops, which is actually not that easy. So we'll start with the cat-cow to warm up a little bit. On your hands and knees. Hands shoulder width apart. Toes are going to be pointing out. And then taking a deep breath in. You're going to be curving the spine, looking through those legs, pulling the belly button up. Still pulling the shoulders down. And then exhale, coming forward. So we'll do a few here. When you come forward, try not to collapse. Still get that lift, like you're lifting out of your shoulders, lifting out of your spine. Breathing out. And then you can pull your shoulder to your hip if you'd like to do a little side to side and look in that direction. Alternating directions. If you want, you can do some circling with the hips. Nice and slow. Bringing the weight forward, to the side, down, going to the other side. Do what feels good. And then we'll progress it to kneeling table. So here we're going into flat back, tucking the toes under. I always like to breathe in and then exhale the shoulders to the hips, pulling the belly button up to the spine. Peel the knees off the ground and hover. Ooh. Or just stay down. All right, go ahead, relax for a second. So then what we'll progress it to is incline plane and then incorporating the knee drops. So the knee drops is this thing that I really like. It's been helping a lot of people with getting that core connection in their incline plane for like push-ups and stuff. It's also great if you want to do push-ups and your wrists or elbows are bugging you. So you can do it on the ground. If your hands are elevated, your knees won't touch the ground. So there's a few ways to start playing with this. You're going to start with your hands shoulder width apart, pull the shoulders back. Step one leg out at a time, get into your incline plane position. If your hands are on the ground, trying to keep the hips extended as you bring the knees to the floor. There we go. And then back up. Pits of the elbows facing each other. So we don't want the hips to come back, but it's okay if they do because you're still going to get the work done. You're still going to feel it. But what you want to do is keep feeling the shoulders come down. So here, incline plane. And this way you'll feel it in the hamstrings, pushing through the heels, squeezing the butt. Ooh. Yay. Okay, go ahead and relax. So that's the progression for cat-cow today. Next up is going to be supine bridge. So you're going to need one block. So supine pelvic tilt to bridge. This is one we do all the time. Just be on the ground, feet hip width apart. If you want, you can use a block between your thighs. I always scoot the shoulders down once I'm down here because they always like to come up. And then trying to flatten the spine on the ground. So we're trying not to round into the ground too much or arch away. Check in with your heels just a tiny little bit, and that's the pelvic tilt. From there, you're going to draw the inner thighs into the block, like you're squeezing, without squeezing with your quads. And sliding the ankles out at the same time. Your arms can be bent at 90 degrees or extended. I'm going to keep them bent. And then keeping the ribs down, neck long, you're going to start bringing the hips up. The heels are pulling towards your butt as the hips come up, the knees move forward, you're squeezing the block, the ankles move out. You can come to your hips and see if they're level. So I always put my hands on my hips and then I also give myself feedback. One hand on the top, one on the bottom, pulling the tailbone down and the belly button moves down and in towards the spine. You can scan your back with your hand, making sure it's not arching or rounding, pulling the forehead to your heart. To add some more fun, if you'd like, you can peel the heels off the ground. Ooh, fun. Squeezing that block. And then slowly bringing the heels down. And hips down. Try not to let them wobble around. Okay. And you just sit there for a second. This is my second time doing this in a row, so my hamstrings are feeling it. Feels great. It's a good time. Okay. Next up will be leg lifts. So this one you're gonna be laying on your side. I like to use a wall because it lets me know if I'm falling forward or backwards, but you don't need it. Some people hate it and then don't use it. You'll need something like a block or little, I'm sorry, there's a little spider here and I don't want to kill it. That's why I just stopped talking. All right, we'll just start on this side. Okay. It was going right where I was placing my block. You're good. I'm trying not to be scared of spiders. This one's extremely small, so that's why I'm playing it so cool. All right. So you get your neck in line with spine, shoulder down, heel in line with hip, pulling the tailbone down so the back is still flat on the back. Now here we want the movement from the hip down. So you're going to start with your toes forward. So it's actually a smaller movement without locking the knee out. Do about 5 to 10 there, trying to keep your neck in line with spine. And then what you can do is rotate externally so the toes will go up. And then you can pull the tailbone down, ribs in. That's hard. So the tendency will be for the hips to fall back, so try to keep it level. And then internal rotation, my hips fall forward, so try to keep the hips level again, adjust. And then doing some lifts there. And then for now, we'll just do that and go to the other side. When we turn on the intervals, it'll be 1 interval per side. Whew. Right. I don't know where that friend went. It's gone. Yay. Okay. So getting yourself set up. You can always bend the knees if you need to, if you feel it in your back. Hips stacked, ribs in, core is engaged. You can always place your hand on your hamstring back here and lift up into the hamstring with your, as you press your fingers down. And then external rotation, try not to fall back. There you go. Internal rotation, try and extend that leg, not fall forward. That's hard. It's weird because when I rotate, it's not weird, it makes sense, but when I rotate my hips in different ways or my leg, depending on which way is tight, I'll feel my jaw start to just like move on its own, all weird. Because there's always that jaw-hip connection, and you really feel it sometimes on those lifts. All right, go ahead and relax on that. After that, we can do Sphinx or prone mountain. It's going to be up to you. And I'll start with Sphinx. We're going to have the fun option of lifting the feet and the hands off the ground depending on which one you're doing. Sometimes I put a block between my ankles because they like to spin out. Sphinx, elbows underneath the shoulder. And what we're going to do is start from the ground and work our way up. So we're going to start from the ground, start from our toes and work our way up. So if you're in prone mountain, you're down here, extending the toes out. If your feet start to cramp, you can always flex them. And then you're going to feel the tops of your knees pressing down evenly to the ground. Not very hard, they're gentle, but they're pressing. And then coming up, you'll extend the hips, squeeze your butt, extending the hips to the ground while keeping the knees down. The tailbone moves down, the floating ribs move up to the spine, and then you're going to lift your chest. Trying to open up that chest. So from there, if you'd like, you can lift the toes off the ground and extend away from the hips. Try not to lock the knees. If you're on the ground, and try and lift the hands off the ground, hovering. Okay, go ahead, relax. Those are your options there. Whew. That's good. Okay. And then finishing with a standing position. So go ahead and come up to standing. A few different progressions we're going to go through here. And this one's really hard for me. You'll see. You'll see why. Okay, so we're going to start in a split stance. feet hip width apart. Taking a step back. And then you want your hips facing forward. You're going to pull the tailbone down. When you pull the tailbone down, that'll get a little stretch here on the psoas. You want the knee bent to start with, so the knee slightly in front of the first, second toe, compacting your abs. And then you're going to lunge forward. There we go. You can have your hands at prayer or on your hips. And so we'll start here, just hold for a little bit, drawing that front heel back in space, the back leg moves forward. And then what we can do is start some movement. So you're squeezing your butt on the back leg, and then you're going to start pressing that front heel down, pull it back, straightening that leg without locking the knee out, coming back forward. And get those hips squared out again. Ribs in, pulling that front heel back. You can go into a hip hinge, coming forward, trying to keep the back flat. If you want, you can reach or keep your hands at prayer. There we go, pulling the belly button to the spine. Holding here, or if you want, you can come up using that back leg, bend the knee, straighten the leg, hinge. Ooh, walking around. Walk it off, walk it off. Okay. Shall we do the other leg? Yes, we shall. Okay, let's try the other leg. This always brings my heart rate up. Okay. Stepping back. Keeping the hips forward. You're going to pull that belly button to the spine. Get your lunge. Trying to get a nice long line. It's very hard for me. You're going to start pushing through the front heel down, and then you pull it back. Space. Back leg, you're squeezing your butt, still pulling that tailbone down. Lifting the chest. And then from here, you can begin straightening that leg, pulling that front hip back in space, bending the knee. Straighten the leg, bend the knee. And then you can stay with the straight leg if you'd like. Just do it. That's good. And then going into your hinge, you can, if you'd like, you come up, bend your knee. Oops, lost my lunge. Straighten the leg, hinge. Coming up, using that back leg to help you up. Bend your knee, and then when you come out of it, you're going to step through the front heel. Breathe. Walk around. And then that is the rounds. Those are the progressions. It's not all happening, but it's kind of like the first warm-up round. So now we're going to go into the intervals. It's going to be 50-20. We'll see how many rounds we get. You can do up to 4 or 5 rounds if you really want to. I'm going to set up the timer. We're going to start at the top with some full extension. So we're going to move it into round. Okay. That was a bonus. So we're going into our chop. The arms reach back. You can send your butt up towards the ceiling. Reaching, pulling the chin to your chest. You can come down to a squat if it's an option. Otherwise, already start coming up. Leading up with the chest, keeping those ribs down as you come up. And then coming back down. The butt begins to come up. You're reaching through those fingers. Pulling the belly button away from the thighs, coming down. 10 seconds. Ribs in. That was ribs in, that little noise that I made. Okay. Let's do a little bit of cat-cow, and then we'll go to the kneeling table. Oh, hi. Okay. Okay. Here, come over here. Right here. Can you sit? She's like, no, I cannot. 3 seconds, we'll do some cat-cow. neck in line with spine. If you want to challenge this 25 seconds, you can start peeling the knees off the ground. Try not to lose the ribs in, like I like to. Lifting that neck, pulling the palms to the knees. 13 seconds. Nice and light on the hands. 5. All right, slowly coming down. If you're up, relax. Cool. Supine bridge is next. If you want to add movement, you can. Or just stay in bridge. It's up to you. Got the block. Scoop the shoulders down. So I'm feeling the heels pressed down to activate hamstrings, ankles slide out. You're pulling a little bit. The knees begin to move forward as the hips start to come up. Drawing the legs into the block, scooting those shoulders down, scanning the back side, feeling arching and rounding. So I'm going to pull down where the arching is, lift away where the rounding is, opening up the chest. If you want, you can again add movement, trying to keep stability of the hips, keeping the core engaged as you come down and up, or just hold. 5 seconds. Ooh. Leg lifts on your side. So you can always use a pillow if you don't have a block, a pillar, or a bolster. All right, so neck in line with spine, heel in line with hip, and again we're keeping that movement purely from the hip down. So compact your abs, toes forward, coming up. Give yourself feedback on your hamstring if you'd like. And what we don't want is pinching on the side. So keeping that locked in. When you do external rotation, the whole leg rotates out. That movement. My head's a little high up. And then coming down to internal rotation. Usually the hip will fall forward, so not letting it do that. Straightening the leg. Go to the other side. How many like this will I do this week teaching? I should count them. I probably doing a lot the last few weeks. It's great. That's why my knee isn't swollen anymore. It's awesome. Okay, and head over hips, pulling the belly back to the spine, and then starting at neutral or toes forward. Still pull the shoulders down. You can always scan the back, make sure it's not arching. Do about 5 to 8. Then we can go external rotation. Try not to fall back. Ooh, yeah. And then internal. Always bend the knees if you start feeling it in your back, or if it becomes too much. Five seconds. Try to relax your jaw. Okay. Prone mountain or snakes. Okay. 3 seconds. 2. All right, I'm gonna do sphinx. Elbows underneath the shoulders, fingers forward. Trying to get the hips forward evenly. Start feeling the tops of your knees pressing down. The toes are extending away from you. Elbows are pulling towards your hips. You can lift the belly button away from the ground, squeezing your butt. And then the floating ribs move up and in. Squeezing the tops of your knees, or pressing the tops of your knees. 5 seconds. Taking a deep breath in. Slowly coming down. Wow, and that was great. Okay, let's come up to standing. Split stance. lunge, pulling the tailbone down, ribs in. And then once you're here, keeping the core engaged, you can begin to straighten that leg, bend the knee. Now as you straighten the leg, you're not necessarily pushing away from the ground. You're pressing down it with the heel and pulling towards the back leg. This back leg keeps pushing forward or extending forward. You have this energy constantly drawing to the middle. Keeping that chest lifted. Oops, there we go. I always got my ribs flaring out on this one. So hard. And bending the knee, stepping through the heel, walk around. Ooh, okay, good. Good job, good job, good job. All right, we'll go to the other side. And stepping it back, bending that knee. Now you can always angle the foot if you need to. So you can get that lunge, that tailbone down, come forward, chest lifted, and then straightening that leg, and then bending the knee. Trying to keep the core engaged. Head over hips. Oh, oh. There we go. So hard. So remember, we're pulling that front heel back so that hip's coming back in space. The back leg, you're squeezing your butt. Keeping the core engaged. Taking a deep breath in. And we're going to bend the knee, step forward, and out. Walking around. Next round. Shoulder circles. You can do some big circles. 8 seconds. Okay. So starting with one arm, trying to keep that upper body from moving side to side. Just move it at the arm. Anywhere between 5 to 10, forward, backwards. You can keep your elbow bent if you need to. Trying to keep your head stacked over your hips. Other arm, go this way so I don't hit the wall. Oops. Oh, I still hit it anyways. Backwards. And then both arms. This one, try not to let the head come forward. So keep the head over hips. Do-do-do-do-do-do. If you'd like, you can do some pivoting, twisting the arms. All right, cool. Let's go into inclined plane and then throwing in those knee drops if you'd like. 10 seconds. Or you can just hold inclined plane or kneeling table. Fit to the elbows facing each other, hands shoulder width apart, walking one leg back at a time. So you get this nice long line from your heels all the way through the top of your head. From there, trying to keep that line, you just start keeping the hips extended. Start bringing the knees down and up. So this is really going to work your core. If the knees don't come down all the way, that's okay. What we don't want is to lose it. So keeping that core engaged, keeping the hips extended, squeezing your butt. Got 18 seconds. Trying to take note. So here I'm losing it again in my hips. Keep the hip extension. 8 seconds. There we go. This is great for push-ups. Practice. 2. And go ahead and relax. Oh yeah, that's fun. Good. All right, supine bridge. You can do up and down if you want to bring your heels off the ground. It's an option here as well. 3 seconds. All right, scoot the shoulders down, feeling those heels pressed down. You can gently start pulling them towards your butt. Ribs moving towards the spine. Okay, you're going to start bringing the hips up, the knees move forward, the ankles are sliding out, clamping onto the block with your inner thighs. At the top, checking in. You want a nice long line all the way out through those knees. making sure that you're not arching or rounding the spine to the best of your ability. Pulling the forehead to your heart. If you come to your toes, making sure that the ankles don't spin or the heels don't move around. Still squeezing the block, still pulling the heels towards your butt. And then you can bring the heels down, keeping the hips where they're at, and then bring the hips down. Wow. Oh, that's so intense. Okay, leg lifts again. On your side, 5 seconds. Send that shoulder down. Getting your hips stacked. You can always bend your knee if you need to. Pulling the belly button to the spine. Start with toes forward, keeping a nice long line through the side of the body. So again, no pinching here. You go to internal rotation, the hip's going to want to come forward so you can encourage it to go back. It's the whole leg that's rotating. And then external rotation, the hip's going to want to come back. So don't let it. Or say, hey, come back here. That's hard on this one. 5 seconds. All right. We'll go to the other side. 5 seconds. Same idea. Feel it? Feeling good, feeling good. All right, great, great, great. Get those hips stacked. Nice. One over the other. Heel in line with hip. Shoulders down. And then we start here. Trying to keep the toes forward. Trying to straighten the leg without locking the knee out. Anywhere between 5 to 10 movements at each rotation before you go to the next one. Just try not to fall back on the external. Keeping a nice long line again through here. And then internal. Try not to fall forward. So compacting your abs. 10 seconds. Trying to straighten that leg. Oh my gosh. Great. 2. And relax. Okay. Prone mountain or sphinx. Try prone mountain. Okay. So your toes are out. Kind of scanning up the tops of the legs. Feel the knees, the tops of the knees pressing down, the tops of the thighs. The hips are pressing to the floor. Taking a deep breath into that low back. You can exhale, pull the shoulders down as you reach for your toes, lifting that neck and lining the spine. And then you're compacting your abs so that the ribs and the belly button pull away from the ground. The tailbone moves down. You can always give yourself feedback. Trying to keep the knees down. Chest is open. And then if you'd like, you can bring the feet off the ground. I already have my hands off the ground. You can bring your hands off the ground. Extending out through the top of your head and out through your toes, trying to breathe. 5 seconds. Okay. Relax. Stand up. We go into more of a pyramid now. Nice. Take hip width apart. Taking a step back, we'll start in the lunge first. Again, you can always angle that back foot. Hips are forward, knees bent. Trying to keep that back flat. Back leg, you're extending through there. And again, you can have your hands at prayer. Pulling the front heel back in space. Oh. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, 8 seconds. Slowly coming up, using your back leg to pull you up. Bend your front knee. Step forward. And out. Ooh, my face got nice and hot on that one. It's always a good sign. All right, we'll do the other leg. 10 seconds. Three. Stepping it back. give yourself time to adjust into the movement. Don't just throw yourself into it. I like to bend my knee first and then pull that energy back. Over hips. Then hinging. See, one side's way different from the other. Pulling the belly button away from the spine, lengthening the top of the head out. You can have your hands at prayer or out in front of you. Trying to create space at the hip. Pulling that front heel back, but the shin is still working forward. So you can always put your hand on your shin too if you'd like. And pull your hands back to give yourself feedback for a nice flat back. Using your back leg to come up. Bend your knee. Step forward and out. Walk around. Got 10 seconds. Go back to the top. We'll do some full extension, and yeah, we still got some time. All right, we'll do some full extension. So reaching back, chop. Butt comes up. Sitting down. It's okay for you to round your back here. And then come up, lifting up with the chest though. And then here, making sure the ribs aren't flaring out, straightening the legs. Oh, I just popped my sternum, that was awesome. Coming back, chop. Butt comes up. If you can, come down to your squat. And then lead up with your chest. So flat back here. Ribs in. Straighten the legs. Ooh. Do this 2 times in a row. See how you feel around now? I feel kind of weird. Kind of loopy. It's not a bad thing. I think it's endorphins. Okay, here we go. So get that back nice and flat first. See, when I pull my shoulders down, my ribs stick out immediately. So know your tendencies and adjust for them. And then once you're in inclined plane, both sides of the body are working evenly. So this trains your push-up. Starting to bring the hips down. There we go. The knees down, keeping the hips extended. So keeping that core. Walking out. Keeping a nice long line from the knees all the way out through the top of your head is the goal. You can just be holding here if you'd like. You can always put your hands up on something to elevate yourself. Oh, it's so hard. Okay. Relax. Supine bridge. So on your back. Gosh, my heart rate just spikes on that one. Oh. So here you can hold or move. It's up to you. I always intend to move and then I just hold because it feels good. Or it takes forever for me to get engaged too. Okay. So my intervals just stopped working, so I'll just go ahead and start that up again. Good, good, good. There we go. Sometimes your iPad just is like, no, I'm gonna just quit. I'm gonna quit out of this application. All right, ankles out, clamping onto the block. Slowly bringing those hips up. You want to make sure you're not arching the back anywhere. At a challenge, you can bring the heels off the ground, really squeezing your butt. And again, for movement, see how my hips come down? Try to keep those hips up as the heels come down. Slowly lowering the hips. 10 seconds. Coming up, making sure they're even as possible. All right, slowly come down. Leg lifts again. Yay. 10 seconds on your side. Two. All right. So I scoot my shoulder down because otherwise it's getting pinched. So make sure you're not pinching anything in this position. Compacting your abs, toes forward. You're going to start bringing that leg up. See, engaging the core, squeezing your butt. And then you'll rotate the leg. Try not to let the hip move backwards when you're externally rotating. We're moving the toes up. Trying to keep this long. And then toes down. Straighten the leg. So I got a tight hamstring here. Try not to fall forward with your hip. That's why I'm pushing my hip back with my hand. Breathing. Toes forward. Yay. Okay, other side. Got 8 seconds. Lean back. Get your heel in line with hip. Core engaged. Back flat. Start your movement. If you really want to stretch, you can bring the arm out like this. So much fun. Ugh. And that helps to encourage that stretch there, but you want to make sure your ribs aren't flaring out. So you can always put your hand on your hamstring as well to help get yourself feedback. 25 seconds. And then remember, between your rotations, try not to let the hips fall forward or backwards. So that's what I'm doing with my hands here. It's just pushing my hip back. This is a really hard one for this leg specifically. My ankle is. Ooh, prone mountain or sphinx? So I'm going to do prone mountain again, because that's hard. But then the belly button lifts up along with the floating ribs. You can give yourself feedback and pull your tailbone down. If your hands are by your side, you're going to reach for your toes, lifting that neck, trying to lift the chest without pressing the bottom of the rib cage down. From there, if you want to lift your toes, you can. So again, we're not arching. We're just lengthening, getting a nice long line, lifting the neck, reaching through the fingers, reaching through the toes, opening up the chest. Squeezing your butt, trying to keep both knees evenly pressing to the ground. Breathing 3, 2, and relax. Okay, great, good. All right, we're gonna finish with the split stance movement, then we'll go to restorative. Just lay down and chill while I read your card. Okay. Good, good, good. Here we go. Woo! Pick a leg. Taking a step back. We're gonna do the full movement. So you're gonna go into your lunge, straighten that leg, and then you're gonna hinge. Now you can put your hands on your thigh if you'd like. Come back to straight leg. Hinging. Coming up. And still pulling that front heel back in space to let your body come forward. Alright, bend your front knee, step forward and out. Little booty times. Walk around. Got 10 seconds. Other leg. Taking a step back, keeping that hip width stance, knee trapped in between first, second toe. You start in that lunge, and then straightening the leg as you pull that front heel back in space. You can go into your hinge. Keeping a nice long spine as much as possible. Straighten the leg. And then hinge. Belly button pulling away from the spine, from the thigh. You're pushing through the back leg. And then coming up. Bend your knee. Step forward, squeeze your butt, walk around. And then you get into a restorative position. So anything that's comfortable, so you don't have to worry about being comfortable. What I like to do is turn off the intervals. That's what I'm going to do first. There we go. I like to either come down like this with some blocks. You can go to a wall if you'd like. Hip to wall, legs up here. Lay on your back or stomach, whatever is nice. And I will dim the lights and pull your card of the day. To relax. Breathe and relax. Take a nice deep breath in. Hold that breath for just a moment. And then when you release it, all that good stuff. You have the death card, transmigration. Don't worry, the death card usually is the opposite. Here we go. Don't be scared, for the death card marks the beginning as well as an end. You have been avoiding letting go for fear of losing something you hold dear. Death appears now to encourage you to surrender. You will not be alone as you move through a portal into the next and glorious stage of the cycle called life. Once you push through this challenge and take the first unfamiliar steps of your journey, you will find you have brought everything you need with you. Death encourages you to let go of old patterns and behaviors that are no longer welcome and to take a risk. Fear has prevented you from experiencing the new life you've been longing for. A shamanic knowledge of the transference of energies enables the skills, knowledge, and wisdom acquired through experience and lessons learned to journey with you. Your guides from the spirit realm or world will remain by your side. Transmigration ensures you will emerge wiser and more powerful than ever before as you face change and leave behind the old, familiar form. Other meanings with this card: let go and surrender. Your tendency for control does not serve anymore. Change your perception and see the bigger picture. Everything is working out perfectly. Familiarity is not a reason to hold on to the old. New life awaits. You are ready to move on. Trust. Surrender fears and doubts to me. Transmigration is the key. A new form now awaits for you. Death and start bringing awareness back into your breathing. And then slowly at your pace you can come up to a seated position. Do a creepy crawly fold. Come back up, opening the chest with love and gratitude. Thank you for coming. Much love to everyone, all of you. You and you and you and you. Okay, I'm going to turn the lights on. I'm going to unmute you. First I'll unmute you, if I know how. Hold on. I go here.
Oh, I did it.
Oh, you did it.
You did it.
I don't know. You're unmuted now. Great. I was like, I don't know how to do this.
Exit control.
Thanks for watching. I'm going to stop recording over here.
You.
Thanks for coming,
That's a
Annie.
good feedback.